Greetings all! Today, we will be examining the common water-type Pokemon Tympole, the Tadpole Pokémon, its water-ground type relatively common evolution Palpitoad, and its relatively rare final evolution Seismitoad, the latter two being collectively known as the Vibration Pokémon. While they might look to be relatively unassuming combatants as a whole, the members of the Tympole family are unique amphibians that can use both the power of vibration and even poison to make themselves worth fearing in a fight. Tympole possess somewhat ovoid forms with a single spherical main body and blue tail with a single major vein running down its center. It is connected to the body where a small black spot is located at the end closest to the main body, which it itself is a black color, save for their face, which is a beige color. They have a wave-shaped mouth form with large black eyes and a pair of visible black skin marks that are positioned like eyebrows on their face, being almost music note-shaped in form. The sides of their head are adorned with a pair of bump-like structures that are rimmed with black flesh and coated on the outside by blue flesh. Their evolved form, Palpitoad, possess a strikingly ovoid body form with a proportionally smaller white tail and blue three-toed feet, though they lack upper arms entirely, save for a quartet of light blue colored bumps on their sides and back. Their body has a dark blue coloration to it, with a ring of black surrounding a patch of beige flesh on their belly that extends up to their face, which itself retains the same mouth structure seen in Tympole, but with large black eyes with distinguishable white tissue. The sides of their head, and now their forehead, are adorned with the same type of bumps seen on the body of Tympole, though the one on their forehead is noticeably larger than the rest. Lastly, their fully evolved form, Seismitoad, show a similar color scheme to their pre-evolved forms, though their belly is now the same light blue color as the edges of their body bumps, and the smaller bumps seen in Palpitoad have grown immensely in size and have moved to the back of their body, with two small new ones developing on their knees. Their feet still have 3 toes, but they have changed form, with 2 now in the front and 1 in the back with bulbous toes that make it easier for them to move on land. Their lower jaw has developed a more straight mouth form and is colored a light blue color, while they have developed a slight crease on their forehead, a prominent nose, and large blood-red eyes that are slightly eclipsed by the 2 large bumps on their head. And speaking of said bumps, in addition to the 2 bumps on the left and right sides of their forehead, they further possess 2 on each of their newly developed muscular arms, with 1 each on their shoulders and 1 on the top of their large 3-fingered hands. The members of the Tympole family, unlike their abnormal relatives in the Poliwag family, possess an overall lifestyle that matches that of normal toads from the very beginning of their life to adulthood, and further demonstrate many of the same behavioral and ecological characteristics that define that particular group of creatures. Starting as a tadpole at birth, these creatures naturally mature into semi-formed and then fully formed toads over time, and while their powers do increase over time and they do gain access to new moves and physical attributes, they are generally all insectivores that feed on small insects for sustenance, though in the case of Seismitoad, their large form makes even some smaller bug-type Pokemon ready prey. Tympole are generally confined to living in the water as they have yet to develop lungs that can enable them to breathe on land, forcing them to extract oxygen from water using the extremely imperceptible gills that are a part of the large bumps that adorn the sides of their head. Once they develop lungs and evolving into Palpitoad, however, they become truly amphibious in form, though they still need to travel into water several times a day in order to keep their skin moist and hydrated, using their long, sticky tongues to lash out and grab insect prey from afar. Although they do develop legs in this stage of their development, they are still very much lacking in arms, and thus rely on their small tail to provide them a boost in momentum to move through the water effectively. On land, they are somewhat slow and a bit clumsy as a result, but they can still move around at a decent pace to keep up with prey or otherwise escape possible predatory attacks. It is only when they reach their fully evolved form, Seismitoad, that they become almost exclusively land-dwelling, only taking a few dips in the water to rehydrate their otherwise dry skin while they hunt for larger prey near the water's edge and sometimes further inland. The development of a land-based lifestyle is what has led these creatures to begin developing ground-type attributes as they evolved from Tympole initially, and their larger form and bulk is further what drives the 1 speed EV yield of Tympole to turn into a yield of 2 and then 3 in HP, helping to round them out and provide some decent bulk to work with in battle. Because these creatures have an affinity for the water, and can use it to help lubricate them and make them faster in some cases, and even help accelerate the healing process in their body in rare cases, these creatures gain access to the Swift Swim ability as a base ability, and Water Absorb as a hidden ability. Additionally, this mentioned healing factor can be applied to Tympole and Palpitoad to grant them access to Hydration as a base ability, but Seismitoad differ as a result of the development of poison glands that can coat their bodies in a nasty toxin, giving them access to the Poison Touch ability as a base ability in place of Hydration. In terms of stats, in the case of Seismitoad, they have fairly well-rounded abilities as a whole and can fight effectively both on offense and defense, though their mixture of stats is a little odd for their type. While their base HP and speed stats are both above average for a fully evolved Pokemon of both of their types, their base attack stat is also above average for a fully evolved Water-type Pokemon, while their base special attack stat is above average for a fully evolved Ground-type Pokemon, leaving their base defense and special defense stats as below average for both of their types. Regardless, these creatures are still surprisingly powerful and can definitely prove to be a serious threat to have to face if one does not come into a fight expecting the types of unique tricks they can pull with their bodies and attacks. Tympole typically travel together in large swarms in order to compensate for their weak biological form, with a greater emphasis being placed on numbers than the quality of these offspring in the wild. Because their bodies are not well built for physical interactions, these creatures learn almost no physical attacks whatsoever naturally, the only exception being the flail attack, which is typically learned by them after they have already evolved. Even so, they still get access to some unique moves naturally, such as the round attack, which is among the more uncommon of sound-based attacks. Interestingly, these creatures can use sound to communicate with each other, but not in the way that most might otherwise expect. On the sides of these creatures' body are a pair of large bumps. These are actually the cheeks of these creatures, and inside of them are a complex series of muscles and vibrational sensors that allow them to vibrate their cheeks to create loud noises. While they can be strained to allow access to sound-based attacks, these vibrations are usually at a frequency that is too high for humans to hear, but is just perfect for other Tympole, being used as their primary means of communicating with others in their evolutionary family. This works as an effective way of warning others of potential dangers and getting the entire group mobilized at a fairly rapid pace, with a number of different vibrational message combinations that allow for a fairly simple language to be used amongst them. Sadly, this does not make them any less of an easy treat for most predators, as they are generally slow-moving and thus can do little but hope that they can survive long enough to start to naturally develop limbs on their body, facilitating their evolution into Palpitoad. Evolution into Palpitoad is greeted with the addition of thicker, more resilient skin, legs for locomotion on land, and a pair of lungs that allow them to actually breathe on land, in turn granting these creatures the tools needed to survive both in and out of the water. As with their pre-evolved form, these creatures have a number of bumps on their body that are used primarily for communication with other members of their family, though they are no longer a part of their cheeks, but in this stage of development, they can also more effectively utilize them as an offensive weapon. While these amphibians can use their sticky tongues to completely immobilize prey items and opponents alike, they are much keener on using rapid muscle contractions to vibrate the bumps on their body to create massive sonic disturbances in their immediate area, though at lower frequency than Tympole, so other organisms can hear them and be subjected to their full effects. While in the water, these vibrations are strong enough to create powerful waves, which is what allows them to use the powerful muddy water attack not long after they evolve from Tympole. On land, the effect is not quite as powerful, but it can still be enough to generate tremors in the ground, helping to knock opponents off guard while these beasts pelt them with special attacks from afar. Aside from this though, these creatures are very similar in terms of their combat capabilities in comparison to their pre-evolved form, though it is noted that their diet is slightly different, and these creatures can effectively feed on any type of insect, even those that are considered to be poisonous. This is because they have begun to develop poison glands in their bodies situated around where the vibrational bump structures are, channeling any poison they ingest into these glands to help fill and prepare them for when they will be generating their own poison after evolution into their adult form. When Palpitoad finally reached their adult form, Seismitoad, aside from gaining access to a pair of arms and receiving a hearty boost to all of their stats, 2 additional changes occurred to their body that helped to make Seismitoad a serious threat in many fights. For one thing, the aforementioned developing poison glands in these creatures reach a state of full operation in this form, being able to generate their own caustic, toxic liquid. When Seismitoad come across a larger prey item that their sticky tongues are not enough to subdue on their own, these creatures will open a port on the bumps on their heads connected to their poison glands and use muscle contractions to spray the stored liquid at the target. Though the liquid itself is only mildly toxic, it is extremely caustic and can be enough to easily melt some types of skin and exoskeletal material, effectively granting Seismitoad access to the acid attack immediately upon evolving. This is also what allows these creatures to possess the poison touch ability, as the caustic fluid is constantly being excreted over their skin as a deterrent against direct attack and a threat against anything that would dare try to kill and eat them. In addition, while these creatures are still able to vibrate the bumps on their body to generate sound-based attacks, the development of 2 pairs on their arms also allows them to vibrate their arms to the point where, if they were to punch a large boulder, even if the initial blow was not enough to actually destroy the structure, they could adjust the vibrating motion of their arms to match the resonant frequency of the object they have struck and completely shake the object to pieces in mere seconds. Moreover, at later levels of experience, these creatures can actually combine this vibrating punch attack with their toxins to create an energy-sapping concoction that can both penetrate rocky and metallic armor and essentially restore the user's energy by reabsorbing the now nutrient-rich liquid after it has partially dissolved part of the opposition, essentially making them one of only 4 Pokemon that can naturally learn the Drain Punch attack. This can make these large amphibians deceptively dangerous and definitely a threat to have to face in close quarters, especially if combined with the chance to poison a target with mere contact, helping these toads to stand out strongly compared to other amphibious Pokemon as a monster that should only be attacked from afar for the sake of the health of one's Pokemon and to help keep them from restoring any of their own energy in a fight. Though perhaps not among the most outwardly dangerous looking of creatures, the members of the Tympole family are still fun amphibians to work with and can certainly prove to be interesting combatants if given a chance in a fight. They might lack much in the way of actual physical attacks to work with for the most part, but that doesn't mean that they still can't prove to be useful fighters capable of launching a few sneaky tactics and attacks that few opponents will always see coming. Just do yourself a favor and try not to bother these beasts too much in the wild. Tympole and Palpitoad might not be able to do much other than use powerful sound waves to attack, but get too rough with them when a Seismitoad is present, or with the Seismitoad itself, and your journey may come to an abrupt stop, via acid to the face, poisonous touch, or having the life drained from you, each of which being a fate you likely will not enjoy the consequences of. Thank you all for watching this video. It is always an honor to be able to speak with you all on the subject of Pokemon in a way that brings me great joy and happiness in my work. If you would like to keep tabs on past and future work, click that subscribe button, check out my work on DeviantArt, and don't be shy about following me on Twitter, where you can find pertinent announcements on upcoming work before it is officially posted. Links to both can be found in the video description. If you would like to support my work and help Miguel and I continue to produce more content for you and improve upon our presentation, please visit us at my Patreon page, which you can also find a link to in the video description. With that, I thank you for watching and I wish you well.